child over there, group of Lib Dem children over there. What have we got here? A group of logical positivist children, existentialist child there. It's absurd, isn't it? We wouldn't dream of labelling children like that. And yet when it comes to religion, our whole society is quite happy to talk about a Catholic child, a Protestant child, a Muslim child. Why the double standard?
I've already set out why I think presumptions like this, rooted in the very idea of faith schools, are a growing menace. But I don't want to just attack. I passionately believe there is an alternative, and I want to persuade you that education is better without faith. I feel strongly about this because when I was a boy, I thought very traditionally and believed in God. But it was education that allowed me to change my mind and unleashed my curiosity. Any teacher or parent may influence children in many ways. We all have baggage. So how do we best respect a child's right to learn with a truly open mind? Young children are uniquely vulnerable to simply believing what adults tell them. So my starting point would be to give them tools to sort fact from fiction.
When my daughter was 10, I decided to write a letter to her, asking her to think for herself about how we know the things that we know. How do we know, for instance, that the stars, which look like tiny pinpricks in the sky, are really huge balls of fire like the sun and are very far away? I mentioned one good reason to believe that anything's true, which is evidence, and I mentioned 3 bad reasons. There's tradition. Believe it because our people have always believed it. It's been handed down over generations. The trouble with tradition is that no matter how long ago a story was made up, it is still exactly as true or untrue as the original story was. There's authority. Believe it because your parents do. Believe it because a priest does. Believe it because a teacher does. Or because a holy book does. That's another bad reason to believe anything. And finally, revelation. Believe something because it just feels right. And next time somebody tells you that something is true, why not say to them, what kind of evidence is there for that? And if they can't give you a good answer, I hope you'll think very carefully before you believe a word they say. Your loving Daddy.
I'm fascinated by the way children start piecing together how the world works. I've come back to Windmill Primary School to look at a new scientific study of how children are naturally biased to believe certain kinds of, ultimately religious, explanations.
We've used a variety of different methods, just asking children to spontaneously tell you what they think about the origins of things, and also then presenting them with answers. So what we're going to do is we're going to play a game. We're going to look at some pictures.
Dr. Deborah Kellerman is a leading child psychologist at Boston University.
You have to pick the answer that makes most sense to you.
In this experiment, she poses the children questions like, why are rocks pointy?
One person said they were pointy because little bits of stuff piled up on top of one another over a long time. And another person said they were pointy so animals could scratch on them when they got itchy. Which answer makes more sense to you?
The animal one with the scratch.
Okay then. All right. And here's another one. What you find is kids have a tendency, clearly from about 4 years of age, to endorse a purpose-based explanation, or to give you a purpose-based explanation for the origins of things.
Another question she asks the children is, why are lakes still?
One person thought they were still and didn't have waves, so animals could cool off in them without being washed away. And another person thought they were still and didn't have waves because no moving water ever ran into them. Which answer makes more sense to you?
Animals could be cool without being washed away.
So that animals could be cool without being washed away.
animals keep washing them without getting washed away.
Okay, brilliant.
Because no meaning water.
Okay, excellent.
I suppose a child is surrounded in the home by artifacts, telephones and televisions, all things which actually are designed for a purpose.
What we're finding right now is that children really start to do this at the point where they start to understand that artifacts are objects that have been made by someone for a purpose. And that sort of might be orienting them towards an understanding that things are intentionally caused, intentionally designed, and then sort of once they understand that, yes, they're surrounded by these objects that are intentionally designed, then sort of going, well, that's quite a good way to understand everything.
Do you think children could be described as natural creationists?
In some sense, yes, insofar as they are attracted to and spontaneously invoke sort of notions that things exist for purposes, and sort of that's associated with their notions that these things have been intentionally caused, so intentionally caused for a purpose, sort of in many respects sort of mimics what's seen in religion as creationism. Sound like now, are you up for that?
I think so.
You think so? Brilliant. Okay.
So, children naturally tend to assume meaning and purpose in things, even where there is none. This, of course, gives religions, with their own presumptuous but unfounded sense of purpose and meaning, a peculiar advantage. That's why it's all the more important that religion is put in its proper place, as it is in normal schools like Windmill, and not allowed to get in the way of children's questioning minds. Rather than indoctrinating children in faiths that can only preach a limited view on the deep questions of existence, how much better instead to fire children's curiosity about all the extraordinary questions we have yet to answer. At Windmill School, I'm going to take an alternative assembly. I'm hoping I can share with these children something of what I wrote to my own daughter and get them to ask me questions.
When I was your age, I pretty much thought that anything that a grown-up said must be true. But that can't be right, can it? Because different grown-ups say different things and they don't always agree. How do we know what's true? You've probably all heard about a great big meat-eating dinosaur called, do you know what that's called? T-Rex, that's right. Yeah, Tyrannosaurus Rex. Now, if I tell you that T-Rex was about as long as a double-decker bus and was taller than an elephant, it'd be very sensible of you to ask me how I know these amazing things. So evidence is a good reason for believing.
Our greatest responsibility in education is to unleash children's curiosity and never limit their questions.
You and I are really very lucky. We're lucky because we live in a country with a long history of thinking for ourselves and asking questions. We're lucky because we live in the most extraordinary world. It's a real world of real evidence. And I hope that you'll enjoy finding out much more about its wonders. Yes. Well, the horseshoe crabs haven't changed very much. Lots of other things have changed a lot since that time. How did the sun come? Well, the sun came from a huge great cloud of gas which came from an earlier star that exploded.
How did the dinosaurs die?
Well, what happened was there were lots of fires, and there was a huge lot of steam and smoke and dust, and a great big cloud formed all around the Earth, and so the sun couldn't get through. That's what people think, but nobody really knows, and you have to ask what the evidence for this is.
Professor Dawkins sparks controversy when he blames religion for much of the world's pain and suffering. That's The God Delusion, next Wednesday at 9. And this Saturday at 10, Richard Dawkins extols the genius of Britain, demonstrating that its great scientists and inventors have created the modern world. Next tonight, a Time Team special on the secrets of Stonehenge.